I've been involved in not only IT companies, construction companies. I've been involved in CPG companies, from grocery to vitamins to nutrients to supplements to now hair care products. It's been a heck of a journey and gives me the capability of really understanding all facets of operations, including finance, and how they affect one another.
So coming from your vantage point, so what are the challenges you actually face, or what are the differences or the complexities you face compared to a kind of a traditional channel?
Do I have the right data in my demand planning and forecasting tool? Do I have the right data to be able to look at the cost per item, per unit, per product, et cetera, et cetera?
Apart from being a COO at Clarity Cosmetics, you are also a professor and a subject matter expert in supply chain analytics with Georgetown University. So what led you to the passion of teaching?
So I've always wanted to pay back. That's what I've always wanted to do, is pay back. How do I help people avoid the obstacles to being successful?
Favorite financial buzzword you secretly wish disappear forever? Hello everyone, welcome to Expert Talk series from CFO Exchange by Zoho. I'm Satish, your host for today. We have started Expert Talk series to uncover how today's CFOs are driving the future of businesses by transforming themselves into strategic architects rather than number crunchers. With these episodes, we wanted to explore how CFOs across different industries are actually taking forward this transformation journey with the help of their unmatched financial foresight and also with technology. Just same like our guest here, who is also multifaceted, who is a powerhouse of knowledge, and every time I sit down with him for a conversation, that conversation converts into a masterclass, right? So I always wanted to take his wisdom to a larger audience, and here we are today. Let me introduce the COO of Clarity Cosmetics, James Jacobe. Hi, James. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Satish.
Thank you. Let me start that I know a few things about Clarity Cosmetics, right, with our conversations around, but it's always good to like listen from the horse's mouth. So, can we do a kind of a 60-second elevated pitch about Clarity Cosmetics?
Clarity Cosmetics is a hair care, skincare company that believes in non-comedogenic products that are fragrance-free and scented, allergy-free, and other pieces of that are different than normal hair care and skincare products, including clinical justification of the products. Clarity Cosmetics started in 2018 officially. Formulations were created in the end of 2016, but went online to direct to consumer back in November of 2018. Started out with 3 products, grew a little bit over 2019, started to grow more, introduced more products, especially the fragrance-free line, and really started taking off and being able to scale in right before COVID, February, March of 2020. To where we are today is multi-channel, omni-channel, direct consumer, international, wholesale, professional, and our own basically sampling program that goes out to approximately 7,000 dermatologists.
Coming to your career journey from supply chain logistics to COO is quite distance you, because when I say COO, you also handle the financial part of Clarity Cosmetics. So, given this unique background, what is your approach towards financial strategy or a cost optimization or the overall operational efficiency? How this background has helped you, like from supply chain logistics to finance? So, what does that you take from those backgrounds?
Well, I think it's one of those things. I was very fortunate to start out at the lowest levels of the supply chain finance journey. I started basically throwing cases in a warehouse. Went from throwing cases in a warehouse to running warehouses and distribution centers to building warehouses and distribution centers. Started to kind of get into supply chain, filled roles like supply chain analyst, built LMS systems, labor management systems, built um, any type of technology that was involved from a supply chain and analytics standpoint, to the point where I went into a 1,000 store chain. Originally started out as in the supply chain analytics, asset control, to grow to become basically their vice president of corporate operations, which got me involved in all the corporate operations, not the field operations. So I was introduced into the back end side of not only data management, data segmentation, building customer profiles, taking it from there and building lifetime values of organizations. I've been involved in not only IT work companies, construction companies. I've been involved in CPG companies, from grocery to vitamins to nutrients to supplements to now hair care products. It's been a heck of a journey and gives me the capability of really understanding all facets of operations, including finance, and how they affect one another.
I think most of the channels what you operate is direct D2C compared to other traditional brands. So operating in a D2C environment actually gives a kind of a distinctive financial landscape, right?
Mhm.
So coming from your vantage point, so what are the challenges you actually face, or what are the differences or the complexities you face compared to a kind of a traditional channel, like a company operating a traditional channel to a company operating predominantly D2C?
I think the biggest challenge is, how do you justify the cost from a P&L standpoint by channel? You have a support program, also an expense program, that you are trying to justify what those are expenses and what those expenses detail on a P&L statement, especially from channels, when you can't gather data. And what does that mean? I think that wholesalers keep data, or you have to purchase data from them. And companies, third parties, Walmart, Amazon, others, third party websites will not give you data. It's also hard, especially when you have a professional channel that is 7,000 dermatologists, and those dermatologists have no infrastructure, have no capability to really send you data or gather the data from them. And I think it's challenging from a financial standpoint to associate those costs and those expenses to just one channel across the board. And I think that's the biggest channel for omni-channel, or multi-channel, unless you have a way to gather that data to be able to make those fact-based decisions. Um, it's so hard because emotion drives a lot versus the fact-based
Fact,
side.
yeah.
Okay, and it's hard to manage those things. So what do most people do? A weighted scale, right, on revenue. But in reality, if Amazon is 10% of your business, um, you know, and they're using 50% of your marketing expense, how do you associate that together? And what does that do to the other channels? So the opportunity is, how do I gather all that, put it all together, and then come from a company standpoint all the way down?
Okay, that's good to know. And next thing, what we wanted to talk about, as I told in the introduction, like financial transformation through technology is
Yeah.
important for any businesses to scale, right?
Mhm.
So, what have you done in those space? Like, is there anything? What are those kind of capabilities you've unlocked with the help of technology? So, uh, how do you rate, or how do you say that the kind of a technologist impact towards scaling or any transformation in a business?
So, our journey's been a little different than other journeys for
Okay.
other people. First of all, I would say I'm a proponent of course, of Zoho. But what I would say is that the most important thing is dedicate the right amount of resources and competency level to any implementation you're going to do. Why do I say that? I'm on my third Zoho Books organization. I finally have done the capability, because any new startup or anyone else doesn't really have the money and have the competency level to be able to go after those things. But that transition over 5 years has taken me to the place of utilizing that technology and then tying that technology into other CRM, expense reporting, other structured programs that Zoho has, and including the most important is analytics and reporting, and gathering data not only from my current internal systems, but also external systems, either through a CSV or an HTML, and then create metrics organizationally across the board. And sometimes organizations, even smaller organizations, really don't tie that marketing attribution piece of data into that Zoho Books piece or that Zoho inventory piece or that Zoho CRM piece. And there are some silos that are out there. I think you need to break down those silos,
Yeah.
and you have to coordinate and collaborate with the introduction, of course, of a SIOP or an SOMP process to have that capability, to have that communication, and really go to that next level, right? A center of excellence, if that's what you're going to do. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. And we are absolutely incredibly much more down the roadmap than we were 3 to 5 years ago.
So, how do you strategically leverage both financial and operational data to gain actionable insights, mainly for the D2C businesses, like a long term customer value or the customer acquisition cost or inventory health or anything else compared to the D2C metrics? So, mainly for clarity, right?
Mhm.
Because it's a D2C business predominantly, and the data is the kind of key thing to actually manage everything, starting from your customer acquisition cost to actually the inventory health. So, how do you manage that?
So I think most organizations have to look at it three different ways, right? And then coordinate into one synergized approach. Marketing as one, marketing attribution, like you talked about, CACs. But I think you need to also talk about, depending on what service and what
Mm.
product you have, is new client CACs. What does it cost me to gain a new client? Because you need to fill the funnel, right? New customers are the most important lifeblood of any organization and continuing down that path. You also need to talk more about what's my average spend, right? What are my AOVs? How much am I getting in an average order value? Whether it be Amazon, whether it be direct to consumer, whether it be, again, a wholesaler, whether it be a professional site. And I think you need to measure all that. Now, that's just one aspect. Take the next aspect of operations. What are my CSAT scores? What are my costs per order? Cost to deliver from a fulfillment and logistics standpoint. Taking it into the next piece that is part of your operations is what are my weeks of supply and inventory? How many inventory turns do I get? Let's take that on this side. Let's take the third piece. Third piece is, of course, the financial aspects of the organization. What am I looking at? What am I looking at above the line in gross margins and contribution margin? And what am I looking at below the line as net income at the final? So how we are, we're coordinating all three of those aspects and grabbing that data from those silos and starting to bring it into Zoho Analytics and looking at it as a metrics across the organization, not just one area. And I think it's very important that you kind of break down those silos because you only have so much money to spend, right? And it's so important that everyone understands that we're in this together. If I succeed over in operations or in finance, then I spend more money than I do in marketing, but ultimately the company does better, then we're all in it together, right? But at the same time, if I can save money from efficiency on the operational side, or I can look in cutting the expense from a financial side, and I can put that into marketing and grow the business, that's great. That's wonderful. So we are trying to build that infrastructure and that foundation to be able to gather all that data from different sources and make it available to the organization.
So, building on the importance of data, so where do you foresee the role of AI for your business in next 3 to 5 years? What is the transformative role it is going to play in case of your forecasting, both from a spend perspective and also from a demand perspective, and also from a spend management perspective, and also from a personalization? Because with AI, there is mass personalization also happening, and which is very crucial for the businesses like Clarity. So, where do you see the role of AI in next 3 to 5 years, James?
So let's take it back to the beginning,
Yeah,
and the beginning is if you have bad data, AI doesn't work.
yeah,
Okay,
that's true.
bad data will drive bad data coming from AI or ML, machine learning, or even language learning models. So the data has to be correct. So one of the most important pieces is grabbing structured data and having some sort of data governance. In today's world, too many organizations don't have that, don't have any data governance whatsoever, and don't understand how important the data is to make AI work properly. Okay. Number two side, when you talked about forecasting and demand planning, we're a little bit ahead of the curve for most organizations. We've been dealing with a third party, not Zoho, a third party on our forecasting and demand management piece and demand planning tool. That tool gives us the capability to be able to forecast all the way through from an AI perspective. They've introduced the AI over the last year, year and a half, and we can already know, like we did this week, next year, I know how many components of each one of my items, how much sale based on my revenues, based on all of that pieces. Now, take it the next step further is I'm already creating operating budgets for 2026. Why? Because I know what it's going to cost me based on shipping, distribution, fulfillment, any of the other costs that I'm going to have. So I know how many units I'm going to have. I could take that by a cost per unit. I can estimate for already for 2026 and know pretty good chance I'm probably 80 to 85% of my operating budget for next year. So AI has helped. Let's take it down to customer service side and customer experience side. We're already starting to see AI talk to AI.
Right.
Customer support, the customer's using AI, ChatGPT, to funnel a question into customer support. Automation is happening as we speak. However, customer experience, customer support, people are not there yet, right? They either want to talk to somebody or they want to live chat with someone or they want to do something else. And you're starting to see pushback and they're asking questions. Is this AI talking to me or is this
That's
person
that's-
talking to me?
yeah.
Let's go overall AI of what I feel will be the future of AI. Um, AI won't change. AI is going to continuously, it's like Moore's law every 18 months. I think people will change. I don't think AI will drive people to lose their positions or lose their jobs. What I do believe is AI will drive people such as me and you to re-engineer ourselves, to retrain, to relearn, to get involved, to continuously improve. Or we may get left, right? That may happen. But I don't think AI is going to be the driver of people losing positions or jobs. Yes, it might change. Easier development with AI. No, you don't need a programmer. I don't need someone to go into Deluge anymore. I can use AI to basically
To
tell
build
me,
that one.
okay, to
Yeah.
build that for me. But that developer is going to help me some other area or do something else. They have institutional knowledge or they have work history or they have something else. And maybe I put them in a different area to grow them differently because they have that technical capability. I think that's what will happen ultimately with AI.
Yeah, that's true. Because we are right. Because you rightly pointed out that I don't think AI is going to replace anyone's job, right? So it's going to make us do things better, more efficient. Okay. My next question actually is coming from again your expertise in the supply chain and logistics, right? So, with given your expertise, how do you manage your working capital and how do you manage or optimize your inventory? Mainly considering a fact for a brand like Sheen, with the kind of demand generation coming from trends right now, right? Because the beauty industry, actually the demand is driven by the trends, and also there is a shelf life issue, right? How do you manage shelf life? And also the new product launches, because you need to actually launch new product every now and then. So, given your expertise in the supply chain logistics, how do you manage all these things, considering the factor of shelf life, new product launches, and then trend-driven demands?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, going back to my demand planning and forecasting tool, I have a capability not doing it on an Excel spreadsheet. And that tool gives me the capability to manage my weeks of supply, which is somewhere between 13 to 17 weeks of supply. And that fluctuates, right? When I have a promotion, I'm buying ahead of time, but I also manage my inventory terms. So that looks at my cash. And then I also measure on a weekly basis my overall cash flow. That capability to be able to do from Zoho Books gives me that to look at my founders and provide that information to them. We also are a little bit different than most. We don't have a turnkey product. And what does that mean? I don't buy from a manufacturer or supply chain as a source a turnkey product. I buy the components because we manufacture our own components. We created our own trademark on our bottles to have that capability. Then take it, I buy my own labels, I buy my own tops, I buy on my own packs from my massive shippers, to the point of where we take it to a contract manufacturer, and a contract manufacturer fills the product. Over on the other side of the equation, we look at, where's that manufacturer? Where's my fulfillment center? How do I monitor that cost and look at that cost? Currently, we're up to 4 different manufacturers. We're introducing a new manufacturer on the East Coast. All 3 that we had previously that were doing other products, multiple products for us. We're on the West Coast or middle, okay, the Denver area. And really, we now have the capability introducing this new facility of handling 2 fulfillment centers across the US, and then take it to the next level of how do we deliver and how quickly we can get it to the clients and the customers, whether they be wholesale, whether they be professional, whether they be our direct consumer clients. So all of those aspects play a part, and all dating back to having the right data. Do I have the right data in my demand planning and forecasting tool? Do I have the right data to be able to look at the cost per item, per unit, per product, et cetera, et cetera? And then as I scale, right, as I get bigger, my increase on production, right, drives a volume decrease. Okay. Even sometimes rebates, depending on what you have. So all of that drives cash flow, right? And capital costs.
Yeah.
Everything that we look at, we try and do an ROI on. What's the component? New product delivery, new products coming in. What is this going to bring back to the organization? I'm going to charge a certain amount, or maybe I need to charge less to get a certain margin through. Now, what's the time frame that I'm going to bring that in? That's already built. Let's say, for example, I have 2 new products coming in March of next year. I've already built that capability of what my expected volumes are and my cost into my demand planning and forecasting tool. So that builds, right,
Yeah.
capital costs.
Definitely.
My hurdle rate and my discounted cash flow statement is all right there. And that goes back to culture of an organization, right? Is a culture of an organization built with emotion, or is it built with
With
back to the
back to
data piece,
numbers. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you need a little of both, right? Because I got to believe
Yeah.
and then take it to the next level. But data will help me provide that situation to the organization and say, here, maybe you need to charge a little bit more based on a marketing analysis of a new product delivery that you have will come out. But we're a little bit different. We're unique. We're not like any other product. So we have a capability of understanding what's the value to the customer with our products.
Okay. So that actually given the cue for my next question, right? The one thing which is less discussed among the financial leaders is the importance of people, right? Uh, because apart from your critical skills you need to build in your finance team, what are the other skill sets, right? Do you actually put in or expect or inculcate in your team to make them try to make them thrive and also sustain in this very data driven strategical environment to actually cope up with the growth you're looking at, right? Because everyone has technology, everyone has access to technology, everyone has the kind of a product, but people is the one who finally makes a change. So as a finance leader, what do you expect or what do you put inside your team to make them thrive in this strategical environment and to grow in the pace what you look forward to?
I think, especially in a newer startup or a new growth company, it goes back to leadership, and the leadership has to have those 2 qualities, right? They have to have that strategic vision. Okay. At the same time, they need to have the tactical capabilities to be able to go and investigate and get into the micro information, especially in a new startup. Because you don't have multiple silos across the organization. You don't have splits with 20, 25 people. May change once you get to $1 billion. I think that that's the most important piece. I think you need to have leaders who are leaders and and they lead to manage the business. They don't manage to try to lead the business, okay? Number 2, I think all folks within your organization, I'd love to say they all high performers, but you can't have both, right? There's 3 kind of pieces within an organization, right? There's an A performer, that's a high performer, it's always gonna grow and get there. You have a B performer, and I go back, that's probably 20% of your folks that are in your organization. You have B performers, that's probably about 65%. They're the foundation, right? They're the ones who come in, work 8 hours a day, been there a long period of time, take the capability of learning more, and then you have C folks. Those are the folks are always the pessimist. Those folks always don't like to be challenged. Those folks are, I call them sometimes the Eeyores. We're doomed, okay, from that standpoint on the seaside. The biggest opportunity is how do you take the B performers, give them the education, the knowledge, and the leadership to become A performers, and then hold that C performer, not 18 or 20%, down to 10 or 5% and continually work on that. Now, how do you do that? Training, education, um, capabilities and sending them to webinars, white documentation, white papers, anything that they have. But that individual has to have that passion and that energy to drive, to learn more, to get more involved. From a technical aspect, they have to have some sort of competency level in today's world,
Yeah.
ERP systems, CRM systems, BI tools, any of those other pieces, they have to have the capability to investigate and learn. If they don't want to ever leave an Excel spreadsheet, they may not move or go somewhere else. Okay. And that's part of, especially in a growth organization, because you can't scale properly without the right people in your organization to take you to the next level.
Thank you. So next, most of the leaders in the financial background or
Mhm.
logistics background would have always or would have faced unique challenges when you have been building your career across different companies. So uh, not only from a Clarity Cosmetics, your role in the Clarity Cosmetics,
Mhm.
but across your career. So what has been your steepest learning curve, right? So what has been your steepest learning curve and how did you overcome and then how do you navigate from there? And is there some learnings if you want to share with our audience?
I think the number one thing is you're not the first to do something.
Okay.
Somebody has always beaten you to it. I think the opportunity is how do you learn from that? How do you either build relationships or educate yourself even more from the distribution and logistics and fulfillment capabilities? And how do you take those learnings and bring them back to your organization? For example, if cost is the number one driver in your organization or cost and delivery to your customers is important, time to deliver. Amazon has changed the world. It really has. But there are opportunities to be able to say, it might cost me this if I run it through Amazon, or it might cost me this if I run it through a FedEx piece. And so there are applications that are out there, I like to call them triage programs, middleware products, that have that capability to build those within the requirements to take you to the next level. And then organizations don't need to go to just FedEx, and FedEx charges you whatever, and then you have to hire someone to look at your invoices and go through FedEx because they've overcharged you or they've done something different. I think the opportunity is there's always something out there. It's gonna happen, and you're not the first to do it, and, if you think that way and become stagnant, you're gonna get lost in today's world. The opportunity is, look at what your challenges are. What are the challenges that you have in your organization? And make them opportunities, and have that capability, especially from supply chain, distribution, fulfillment, logistics. Too many companies look at that area, it's just an expense,
Yeah.
but truly it's a profit center. Why? If I save and I'm more efficient, that gives me more money to build my brand, build brand equity, to take something to the next level. And too many organizations aren't looking at it that way. And that goes back to what we talked about in SIOP or SOMP. Um, Truly build those programs in there, because organizations, no matter how much you market, no matter how much volume you have, if you can't deliver it or you can't get it to the client one way or another, doesn't make any difference. You're not gonna be in business
That's
one
that
way or another.
that's true. One more thing which I always wondered is that any startup brands or D2C brands
Yeah.
always face this delicate balance between aggressive growth and sustainable profitability. From a financial and operation perspective, um, how do you approach this standoff between actually growing aggressively and also like balancing and then making profits on the way? So how do you approach from your perspective?
I think the, again, the most important piece is understanding what that balance is. Um, any new startup is challenged, right? They don't look at the infrastructure of the organization the same way they look at the marketing and the brand equity side of the organization, because they're not looking at saying to themselves, I'm definitely gonna be here in a year or 2 years or 3 years. They're looking at it, I don't know if I'm gonna be here in a year. And what I would say is take the capability to build the infrastructure. I mean, like I've said before 100 times, what do you do when you build a house? You build the foundation first. You can bring on all the volume, add extra rooms, do whatever you wanna do, but you need the infrastructure of the organization. And I think you need to manage that with the marketing side and drive the marketing side. Now, you gotta bring in new customers. For any product or service, you gotta fill the top of the funnel, and then you need to look at, right, response rates and conversion rates down on the bottom. I think though, it goes back to, how the organization was started. If you have a product or a service that works, it's just a question of when. It may not be today, may not be tomorrow, but something's gonna happen to drive that brand or that equity of the brand or other people to get involved, whether it be a groundswell, whether it be a, Meta, Google, something. It's gonna drive. If it works, it's just a matter of when it's gonna happen.
Yeah. And one more buzzword is on the ESG. I think you have been
Right.
hearing more about
Yeah.
ESG. So from a COO perspective, the main objective for you is to actually set the ESG objectives for your organization, ensure that the policies are in place, you have the compliance are in place to actually achieve the ESG objectives. So this is a kind of a mandatory things which every finance leader has to follow. But when I was going through Clarity, uh, ESG or sustainability has been in your DNA, right? You have started the business actually using uh, the sustainability as your core driver. So I think this will be the right question to asking to the right person. So do you think sustainability can be a kind of a differentiator for any brand? So can it become a kind of your the next big thing, right?
No doubt about it. But I think it's based on your client base,
Mm.
your customer base. I think the demographics of your customer will drive a lot of that. Let's say, for example, nothing against, but a 65-year-old man may not be interested whether my tubes are PCR compliant. Or I have the capability of building a life cycle assessment on all my products, looking at my tier one, tier two, tier three, not only ingredient providers, but my tube providers, where they're coming from, what are they doing. I think in today's world, too many times sustainability is a gimmick. And when I say that, someone creates an algorithm, charges a customer, and then says, "Hey, part of this is going to go to helping someone in the world from a sustainability standpoint." I think the real piece of it is monitoring that, measuring it, and looking at it. And I think that technology is going down that path in today's world. The problem is that you have what I like to call life cycle assessments and looking at a product or a service. And to really do that template in today's world, you got to be a scientist. Now, others, other ERP systems, other technology are taking that template and trying to build for someone like me and you who's not a scientist to be able to monitor and measure our sustainability pieces. And, I've even had some conversations with the whole Zoho IoT piece and looking at it from their capability. They're doing it with facility management, facility services. They're looking at carbon emissions. They're doing all those things. Now, how do I do it with a product and a service? And how do I measure the life cycle assessment of a product? Because more and more, even in different parts of the world, how important it is to have that ESG piece, okay? To have that fact-based sustainability piece. It's gonna be a differentiator. There's no doubt about it. Maybe not in today's world, especially in the US, with everything is going on in the US, but it will. It will be a differentiator, and it will be a technology that others are gonna build and give you the capability of taking it to the next level. Why? Because a direct consumer customer is gonna go into a customer experience, a customer support set desk, and ask 5 different questions on the sustainability aspects of that product, or they're not gonna buy it. So organizations and companies have to be prepared for it from a fact-based standpoint, not just an algorithm that
Um,
created,
that's,
okay?
that's true. That's true. So, given your experience over decades from supply chain, logistics, and finance, so for any aspiring finance professional who wants to enter into the corporate world or who wants to advance their career, so what will be your advice? Uh, Mainly in kind of the skill sets what they need to build in case of the financial acumen or else the strategic thinking or else how do they need to actually approach their career, so what is the attitude they need to build. So I know, because I know you know why I'm asking this question to you, because you are more than a financial leader or an operational leader. You are also a kind of knowledge powerhouse, which I referred to you in the beginning. So, what is your advice to this young generation who wants to get into this corporate world?
I think anyone, especially a finance person, has to want to know not only the accounting side, but the financial side of an organization. And I think that they have to be technology minded in their aspects and willing to learn, right? So not just go get a CPA, but how do I apply that CPA? How do I look at it from a standpoint of technology, right? Do Am I or do I want to become familiar with enterprise resource planning systems? How do I look at it from that aspect? Okay. And then not to be satisfied. If I work with one organization and they utilize QuickBooks, that's okay. But I have to be prepared. If I move on to a different organization, I have to be willing to accept Zoho Books. If the Zoho Books is implemented in that organization, I have to learn it, manage it, look at it. How do I look at every transaction that's coming out of a e-commerce system, a CRM system, or any other technology system? And where is that piece going into the right chart of accounts? So I have to have the understanding, okay, of being able to do debits and credits in the accounting side, but I also have to have that FP&A side, especially if I want to become a CFO,
CFO.
okay? I need to experience both. I need to understand both. But I also need to be invested in whatever technology that I've implemented and keep that apparent all the way through. Why? Because I need consistency in the data. If I have consistency in the data and I, as a CFO, understand that piece, I can hold people accountable. And so if I don't have consistency in the data, how do I hold people accountable? And then all the costs are correct, and then taking it out to the right chart of accounts and other such things on your bottom line P&Ls.
Thank you. Thank you. I think one more key takeaway from that answer is the common sense, right?
Yeah.
Common sense,
Yeah.
which is not common in most of the people. So I think any decisions, what you take, if you apply your common sense, I think you will take a very kind of a very rational decisions on this thing.
I think it's so important though, people, when they make a mistake, they admit they're making a mistake.
Yeah.
How they really learn is, I don't make that mistake another time.
Another time.
Right? We all make mistakes. Some cost organizations a lot of money, some take really small.
Yeah.
It's the question of how do I learn from my mistakes and take it to the next level?
Yeah. You should allow them to
keep it
make the
going.
mistakes, right?
Right.
So that's
Right.
Yeah.
Be willing and admit when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
You're not always going to be 100% correct.
Just don't repeat
It's human nature.
Just
Right.
don't repeat it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now coming back, I know that apart from being a COO at Clarity Cosmetics, you are also a professor and a subject matter expert in supply chain analytics with Georgetown University. So, what led you to the passion of teaching?
I've been very fortunate in my life. As I said in the beginning, I started out on the floor throwing cases. Um, I wouldn't have been able or capable of to get to where I am today if it hadn't been someone to say, I see something in him. I'm gonna take him off the floor and I'm gonna put him in management or put him up for leadership. Um, I wouldn't have been able to do the things of where in, 2002, 2003, when supply chain was coming on board, really supply chains really started. Um, and you had the data synchronicity across the board on that capability. If someone hadn't said, go into supply chain, go do this, one of my leaders recognized me to do that. So I've always wanted to pay back. That's what I've always wanted to do is pay back. How do I help people avoid the obstacles to being successful? And most of the time, people don't understand that and look at it from that standpoint. And I look at it from how do I help the future leaders of not only supply chain, finance, or any other area um, to learn from my mistakes. How do I do that? With teaching.
No, I really like the way how you approach teaching. Like one teaching is to give back to the society, which gave you a lot, and also in the process learning. Because when you actually teach people, you also learn on the way. So that is actually good, and actually keep doing it. So now let's come to the fun part of actually the interview, which is the rapid fire. I have few questions. I think this is really fun. Okay, so can you shoot?
Go.
Yeah.
Be my guest.
Yeah. So first, your favorite Excel function: VLOOKUP, SEM, or the magical Control plus Z.
Um, Probably be lookup.
Yeah. Coffee or energy drink? Your preferred fuel
Oh,
for late
no,
night process.
no, I'm a iced tea drinker and continuously drink iced tea all day long.
Okay. Favorite financial buzzword you secretly wish disappear forever?
Mm, um,
Rapid fire.
no, if we didn't measure it.
Okay. So what will be your superhero name if your power was perfect financial foresight?
Mm, Data analyst.
No, we need a superhero name.
Oh, super data analyst. How's that?
Yeah, this question is my personal favorite, I guess, because I'm very bad at this. So, number of tabs in your average working spreadsheet. It's
Oh,
more than 10 or like,
yeah,
don't ask.
too many. But what I do is document my task each and every day by area. Because I'm involved in so many different areas of the organization, not only finance, but operations, distribution, logistics, IT, or any of the areas from an application and a technology standpoint, to risk, to quality assurance, to CS, customer support. Sometimes, for a period of time, involved in the marketing aspects as we were growing, and involved in manufacturing, involved in new product development. Sometimes, when we have a hurdle to get, I think it's very important that you prioritize your task and you take care of them and follow up and make sure. But I'm not a true believer in the myth of multitasking.
Yeah.
I believe that you can have the capability of spending 100% of the time on 5 items. That means I can expend most on 100 of one or 20% rather than trying to spend 2% on 40 different tasks. So I think it's very, very important that you not only document what tasks you're gonna do or your strategy or your contacts, but mark them off and and resolve them, not just fix them. Fixing is a Band-Aid. Resolving goes away.
Yeah. Okay, that's it from my side. I think it was very insightful as your lectures and as your conversations, and it's always pleasure to talk to you and actually listen to your insights on business, finance, supply chain, or in for that matter, anything under the sun. It was great talking to you, and until we meet again, have a good day and good life.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for the opportunity.